Hey guys, it is Ascension Angel back at it again with another Neca Predator action figure review. And today we are taking a look at the Neca Toys Deluxe Stoneheart Predator, who featured in Predator Concrete Jungle. Now before we get into the box, I just want to do a quick comparison in terms of size, because this box is fucking massive. So here's Scarface's. Right. And Scarface uses the AVP body type. So as you see, fair bit of difference in heights and in width. And then we come to Snake, who I've just previously reviewed. And that's quite a bit of difference. So if I bring in all three of the boxes here, you can see that there may not be much difference in terms of width, but height, there is a definite difference. And believe me, with this figure, the height is is a big thing. No pun intended. So the box, as you can see, says Predator Concrete Jungle on it, copying that game logo, and it has a unique piece of artwork for Stoneheart here, which was not present in the game. This is specially designed for this box packaging. We then have, obviously, Stoneheart in the bowels of the Borgia laboratory, fighting off against some xenomorphs, and it says Deluxe Stoneheart Predator right there. And if you turn it to the bottom now, you'll see that we get the safety things along with the button cells business, which this is a bit interesting because this is actually the American number for the button cell batteries. In the UK, they're known as something completely different. And it does have the instructions here on how to change the batteries. We'll get into that more later. As you can see, we have the Neca logo. I know it's very up close at the moment because this box is huge. Warning, choking hazard, ages 17 and up. Again, the same as the, the basic stuff, the Predator Concrete Jungle, Deluxe Stoneheart. We didn't have the same thing on the side. Both sides. And then we come to the back, which, again, I can't fit this thing on camera, it's so big. So we have the manufacturing stamp, which indicates this thing was made in the 18th of February 2022, last year. And it says, "The city is your hunting ground. Combat ready, destroy Scarface, Borgia Industries' latest creation." Stoneheart. Stoneheart was once an honourable warrior. Then he was captured by Borgia Industries and subjected to a series of brutal augmentations that would see the towering Predator brainwashed and turned into a cyborg. As his first combat test, he will be dispatched to end the revenge-fueled rampage of his former clan brother, Scarface. Before his conversion into a mind-controlled cyborg, Stoneheart was the enforcer and pack leader of the Dark Blade clan. Renowned for his size and brutality, he shunned ranged weaponry, preferring to take on his prey literally hand to hand, foregoing even the traditional wrist blades in favour of hand-mounted daggers. His name was earned from his practice of gruesomely dismantling his prey, including a member of a rival clan who challenged his honour and accused him of using widely revealed genetic augmentation to gain his fearsome size. Alongside his fellow unwilling bad bloods, Long Spear and Swift Knife, Stoneheart would meet his end at the hands of the redeemed Scarface, who fought the giant and finally delivered him to an honourable death. As you can see, it includes LED lights, blades, interchangeable head and hands. Well, it doesn't actually include an interchangeable head, that's a bit of a screw-up. It includes interchangeable mandibles. So you see, you have the credits here. Director is Randy Falk, the sculptors David Silver, Kyle Windricks and Alex Henke, I think it is. Fabrication was Anthony Minicino and Roger Fernandez. The paints was done by John Wardle and Geoffrey Chapp. As usual, TrueCast Studios did the prototypes, and the photography was done by Stephen Mazarek, with the packaging done by Chris Longo, and the illustration was done by Michael Monitat. And Dane Mercer was the consultant for this figure. You can see we've got Neca, the logo there, the Real Toys division, and the 20th Century Fox logo, as well as the Made in China and whatnot. And then we'll just open the box, which has two Velcro straps, and we get, you can see me in the background, We get a little radar thing there showing Scarface and Stoneheart. Scarface being the green dot and Stoneheart being the square thing with the dot in the middle. We get the plasma caster, the wrist blades, and the medicomp. And then if we come to the bottom, we get power charge, and then we get the health bar. And we get a bit of a background of the church where they're fighting. Yes, you can see me. Hello. And then we come to this picture right here, which shows Stoneheart with his mandibles open, but his mouth closed for some odd reason. Whatever. And it shows him in a very, very cool, fearsome pose. So, without further ado, let's get into the accessories for this guy, of which there are a fair few. Okay. So we get a total of 12 accessories with this figure, which is very good, but I would have liked a 13th, in all honesty. Not a big deal. So let's start where we always start, which is the hands. And we do get a pair of open hands here, which are reused from the Assassin Predator, I believe. I don't own that figure yet, so I can't say, but I do believe they are. But they do have a unique hand gauntlet piece on with these daggers, which is very accurate to the game. Let's see if you show them both off. Very nicely painted, very, very nicely done, very clean, and the daggers look beautiful, beautifully shiny as well, which is really nice, and they do look very, very good. You've got the big peg and the wrist hinge here, kind of armour plating almost on his fingers, which is cool, and they look fairly nice indeed. We do also get a pair of fists as well, which are pretty good. Again, I do believe these are reused, but with this gauntlet piece glued on, which is fine. They do look very good, as you can see. Nice clean paint all throughout. No bleeding, which is good. Again, same look, but just in a fist this time. And you get the two daggers right here, which is pretty nice. These do look fantastic. Then we get 4 wrist blades, which is interesting. So we get 4. They're all exactly the same, so I'll just show one. And these never actually featured in the game. Instead, these actually featured in the concept art, which I'll show you right now. So, as you saw, and I think that these are a fantastic inclusion, despite never featuring in the game and only featuring concept art. I love the idea that these were included, and it goes to show that Neca do, when they do spoil us a lot at times, because they didn't have to include these. But they did, and I'm really glad they did. They do look cool. And even if they didn't feature in the concept art at all, I would have been perfectly happy with the inclusion of these, because they look great, and it's just an expansion on a character that we didn't know too much about. 4 accessories we get are rather interesting. So instead of swappable heads, we have swappable mandibles this time. So we have a pair of closed mandibles, which are very nicely done. We've got R1 and L1 here, and you've got some veins painted in the inside, and they look nice and glossy, which is pretty cool. Nicely done, nice light tones on the inside, and the traditional darker tones on the inside. They look good, nicely painted and whatnot. And yeah, as you can see, my camera's not really focusing too well, is it? Very, very nice. I love the sharp, well, not sharp, but they very nice. The T tusks here, they look good, and they've got key slots as well, which is good. And we get an open set as well. It's pretty slightly glossier than the like these ones here. You can see the closed one isn't as glossy on this side as the open one is for some reason. Not a big deal, but they do look really good, as you can see. Again, it's a kind of the same motif, but these ones are open this time. And we do have R2 and L2 on them this time, which is pretty cool. And these are also very nicely painted. Very nicely painted, very clean, loving the vein details throughout. And they overall look really good. So with that, let's get on to how you attach these bad boys. So, we're going to start with the mandibles first, because as you can see he does look a bit odd. So, it's very easy. We'll start with the closed ones, and you just line them up. See R and L, they go in nicely, as you can see. They line up very nicely. And then we'll start with the hands next. So I'm going to use the fists. Now, it's best to be mindful of the hands, because these are quite sharp, given that they're bigger and pointier. So the thumbnail here, these knuckles, and then these blades. I usually find grabbing it and doing that and just pushing and twisting kind of helps. I've done it enough times now so that it has loosened up a little bit in the socket and made it easier, but it can be quite tricky, so you know, best warm the parts up if you need to. And the blades, it's fairly easy. You have 2 grooves right here on either gauntlet, and the blades just fit in like so. Now, if we start with the details before we get to all the other cool stuff, first of all, this guy's fucking loaded. I'm gonna have to bring him sideways here. If you look at the head, it is so nicely done. It is like a full-on remaster. It pretty much is a full-on remaster of that original digital model. And considering that that game was released in 2005, this is a gorgeous, gorgeous remake of that. It is fantastically done. I did have to do a bit of a mod at the back of the neck there, which I'll explain later on when we get to articulation. But as you can see, the head... In fact, you know what? The head's actually pretty easy to pull off, surprisingly. So I'll do that because this guy is enormous. And as you can see, it looks absolutely amazing. Loads of gorgeous, gorgeous detail throughout. Absolutely fantastic. The eyes are very nicely done. In fact, just give me a sec. I'm going to raise the camera so I can show this guy a little bit easier, because it's not as easy on my setup due to his major height. Coming on to the rest of the body now, it's just so nicely done. If I move the head up out of the way, you can see there's veins done on the neck here and the paint. Let me move these blades actually, just to get them out of the way. All of it is done so nicely. There's some dark kind of purpley areas, or like scabbing almost around the where cybernetic implants have been put in, or scarred flesh or whatnot. It looks really, really nice. The chest is all done. A load of it is a reuse of the Assassin Predator, but I'm totally cool with that because it makes sense for this guy. The mid-torso section is painted very, very nicely as well. We come to the arms, and they look fantastic. The sculpt is great. The paint is really good. Even on the underside, it is done very nicely. The elbows look great as well. As you can see, we've got more of that scabbing where this tube has been shoved into his elbow, which looks bloody painful. We've got this massive, massive freaking bulky gauntlet here, which has a couple of light, 3 light portions here. Also has 3 on the other side. We've already taken a look at the hands, but the gauntlet, as you can see, is loaded with detail, and there's a beautiful recreation of that old 2005 model. We come around to the back, and we get these bits here which go all the way in. You can see that the skin of his back has been peeled open. See freaking cybernetic turbine things just rammed in there, probably screwed into his bone as well, and it looks absolutely bloody painful. Look at it. All of it, as you can see, is just... The skin's peeled away, and it looks scarred up, and it looks very painful. Looks good. We get the lower back section right here, which is painted nicely as well. That bit's a little bit odd, but not a big deal. And it just looks incredible overall. If I get the arm out of the way here, we then come down to his belt section. It's not really a loincloth anymore, it's more of a metal belt piece, and this looks really good. There's some very nice subtle silver dry brushing on it. Don't know how well it's turning up on camera, but it does look good. And then we've got these blue parts painted in here as well, these more lights. We do have a bit of cloth piece, well, not real cloth, but it's sculpted like cloth at the back here, probably from his original armour or something, but it does look good. The legs look fantastic. They are a direct reuse of the Assassin, but again, great. And the paint, great use, great looking piece. The paint is really nicely done as well. The knees are done, and then we get these awesome looking shin pads, shin armour right here, and kneecaps, which, as you can see, nice blue lighting throughout, nicely clean and whatnot. It does look good. It's good. A little bit of paint, maybe bleed there. It's not the end of the world, but it does look really good. And then we get unique feet for this guy, which is really cool. Let's see, with these nice, big, bulky, massive feet, along with peg holes, which I get that the peg holes are a standard thing, but I really don't think this guy is going to be needing peg holes, because they wouldn't be holding. You'd need a big, massive base to hold this guy up. Given that he's big and he's heavy. He's very heavy as well for, you know, compared to the other figures, but it's pretty cool as well. There's no copyright detail on the back of the, the base of the feet, so I don't know where. They've hidden it somewhere on this guy that I can't find, which is cool. The feet are so nicely done, and it really do look good, don't they? Nice vein detail here. Nice veins all throughout. The toes are painted really nicely. Kind of a slight lighter colour in there, which is pretty cool. And he overall is fantastic. Now this guy does have two features as well, which we'll get to before we get to the articulation, which is he has LEDs in him. That's right, he has LEDs, so, and they are very bright, blinding LEDs as well. If you're not careful, you could probably blind yourself with them. So we'll start with the head. You remove the cranium, you see the 3 batteries in there, you flick the switch, and I nearly blinded myself then, and then you just pop this piece back on, and it is very bright in person. It's almost as bright, it's coming off a little brighter on camera, but in person, it's still pretty damn bright. And then we pull this turbine off, and we flick this switch, and this has to fit on a certain way, so this little groove bit has to be at the bottom. We put that on, and these light up, and not just that, but the front of the chest lights up as well, and that looks freaking incredible. In fact, before we get to the articulation, I just want to show you guys just how big he is compared to his fellow clanmate Scarface, who also featured in the game. So here's Scarface. That is a massive difference. And Scarface is actually a little bit small, because Scarface in the game was really big. Like, he was bigger than standard Predators. He was really big. So Scarface is a little bit small. He should be around maybe to here in height, but it's not a big deal. I don't mind. He's still a great figure. It makes sense to use the AVP body type. And these LEDs are really, really cool. So for the articulation, I've switched the open mandibles, and I've switched one of the hands to the open hand, just so you can get a good idea. So the head is on a ball peg, and it does look up a little bit and down, and it can lean side to side and rotate. Now the reason it doesn't do as much is they've actually modified the peg so that it has this bit, this big bulgy bit, and as you can see, it doesn't allow for that much range. I actually had to cut a load of material back there in the back, so that he can look up, and I've taken the top of his skull off. Fail. It's just so that he can look up more, because I wanted more upward movement. Now, there is another bit of articulation as well that I don't think many people have noticed, which is the jaw. The jaw is on a hinge, and this is very cool. This is fantastic, because it means you can have him screaming, or you can have him, you know, with a closed mouth. So I love the fact that the jaw is on a hinge. I think that is absolutely awesome. It saves them including 2 heads. Now the shoulders are on pin socket joints with disc hinges, so they'll rotate all the way around. Just being mindful of this wire, this big tube, and then it will swing out to side very nicely. The joints are tight on this guy, but they hold a pose. The elbow is on a double joint, so it's a disc hinge and a pin socket at either end. But due to the bulkiness of his gauntlets, you're not getting too much past 90. In fact, it just barely goes 90, to be honest. But that is fine. The gauntlets are, as you can see, they're so bulky, you know. You're not going to get loads. I suppose you can kind of fudge it a little, like that. But, you know, it is what it is. You know, if this is the assassin, he'd be able to bend back more. He can rotate at the top peg as well, which is technically your elbow, and then you get the gauntlet rotation there. The wrists are on a hinge and a swivel, as you saw, so they'll hinge. This one hinges down a bit, doesn't really hinge up too much, just because of the gauntlet, but this one, it doesn't hinge up at all, but it does hinge down a fair bit, because of the, again, it's this extra piece on the gauntlet. Now, the diaphragm is on a double ball peg, and the waist is on a single ball peg as standard, and this guy has some insane range in him. The waist don't really want to do anything, so I'm not going to try and force that because I don't want to break this guy. Believe me, this was a very expensive figure. But that is an insane amount of crunch forward just on the diaphragm joint alone, which is absolutely incredible. It can arch back as well, an even more insane amount, as you can see. That's pretty far back, which is nice. You can also lean. This diaphragm joint's really, really good. Look at that. That is some great range. And of course you can rotate, though you're mainly going to be rotating at the waist, but mine's not really wanting to move that much, and I don't want to break anything, so I'm not going to, bother too much. Now the hips, this is interesting, they're on ratchets, so they soft ratchet forward, and they'll go about that far, because this does hinder it. I might put some incisions in here between the plates just so that they flex out the way more to allow more movement. Before you get that far forward, you get that far back. The legs have a big, thick, heavy ratchet enabling out to side movement. That's as far as you can get them, which is really cool. Very similar style of mechanism, but big and heavy and ratcheted. The thigh swivel moves in there as well. And that actually feels ratcheted as well, which is interesting. This one, not so much, but this one is very tight still, so I don't want to snap anything, but I don't think I will. The knee is double jointed, so I'll do this one actually, because they're still very tight. Fucking hell, sorry. They're very tight joints on this figure. They'll bend just shy of 90. And then when you use that secondary hinge, you get past. Again, it's a big, bulky figure. I completely understand. We have a new system, which is a ratchet and a pin facing forward and a pin facing up. So you can ratchet the foot up and down, not too much, which is fine. You get a nice ankle pivot, which is pretty good. And to get the ankle more centered, when you're pivoting, you have a pivot. So a swivel at the top. So as you can see, the ankle's misaligned. You then rotate it there, not there. You rotate it there, and as you can see, the feet are now facing forward. That overall is an incredible amount of articulation. And overall, Stoneheart is an impeccable figure. And I mean an impeccable figure. The paint, the unique sculpt work on him, the accessories, those fucking LEDs. He is just amazing. He is literally a complete remaster of the original 2005 digital model. He's brilliant. He's that old poly model just taken and made super HD. It's like looking at Halo 2 and then Halo 2 Anniversary. The amount of remastering that's done on that game is literally rivaled by this figure. It is incredible. The only thing I really, really wish he would have come with is a trophy skull of his own head, because in the game, he does get brainwashed and you do have to kill him and you do tear his skull off. And there is a section where you get... trophy skulls. You can see the trophy skulls of all the bosses that you've killed, and one of them is Stoneheart's. So I would have liked that, but hopefully at some point down the line, when Neca do more Predator Concrete Jungle, well, I'll say when, if, we will get a trophy skull pack. That being said, this guy does get a high recommend. He's just absolutely friggin' brilliant. If you did enjoy this video, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, as well as turn on notifications. And with that, guys, I hope to see you all in the next video, where we have another very, very special figure. So until then, keep hunting.